There comes a moment in every life when the world grows silent and a question rises like thunder inside the soul, a question that burns through the noise of distraction, through the haze of habit, through the comfort of playing small. Who are you deciding to become? Not who you've been, not who the world told you to be, but who you are choosing consciously, deliberately, defiantly to become. You see, most people never decide, they drift. They float downstream like leaves carried by the current of other people's opinions, their doubts dressed as practicality, their fears masked as caution. They trade power for comfort, identity for approval. And in the quiet corners of their lives, they wonder why they feel so hollow. But there are a few, the rare, who decide. They do not wait for permission. They do not beg for a sign. They stand up and say, "This is who I will be, and nothing, not failure, not fear, not the weight of the world will keep me from becoming it." That decision, that line in the sand, is the beginning of greatness. It is what separates the remembered from the forgotten. Because long before the world sees the result, the individual must declare the identity. Henry Ford decided. He said, "I am going to build a car that every man can afford." When the experts laughed and said it couldn't be done, Ford didn't flinch. He didn't try to become. He decided, and the world bent to that decision. Walt Disney decided. While sleeping on a studio floor with a few cents in his pocket and rejection letters piled high on his desk, he envisioned a world of imagination and refused to surrender it. The magic kingdom didn't come from money. It came from the stubborn belief of a man who refused to live small. Decisions are the seed of destiny, and the moment you truly decide without backup plans, without excuses, the universe starts moving. Not because it's magic, but because your focus sharpens, your energy aligns, and your actions become relentless. But here's what no one tells you: the world doesn't respond to vague desires. It only moves for those who move without hesitation. That's why indecision is the assassin of dreams. Every time you delay the choice, you dilute your power. Every time you say maybe, you silence the voice of greatness inside you. Clarity is power, and clarity begins with the decision of identity. Who do you want to be when the doubts scream and the spotlight fades? Who will you be when it's hard, when it's lonely, when no one claps? That answer is not found. It is forged. You were not born to react. You were born to direct, and if you do not author your identity, the world will write it for you in lowercase letters, dripping with mediocrity. Look around. The masses live their lives on autopilot. They wake up not with a mission, but with a routine, not with purpose, but with habit. They ask, "What should I do today?" when the real question is, who do I need to become so that the life I want becomes inevitable? Identity drives behavior. When you decide who you are, the actions follow, not from motivation, but from congruence. A lion doesn't have to remember to act like a lion. It doesn't need a pep talk or a checklist. It acts according to what it is. So the first and greatest decision is not about goals. It's not about money. It's not about success. It's about becoming someone worthy of the life you dream of. Because life does not give you what you want. It gives you who you are. And if you want more, you must become more. You want wealth. Become someone who commands it. You want purpose. Become someone who embodies it. You want love, respect, meaning. Then become the kind of person who earns them by your presence alone. Let the old you die. Let the version of you that begged for approval, that waited for signs, that played small, be buried today and never mourn. That version of you was built for survival, but now you are here for impact. You are the architect, the author, the director of this story, and the next chapter does not begin until you decide, so speak it. Shout it, burn it into your spirit. I will become the person I was born to be, and I will not stop until the world feels it. Once you decide who you will become, the world doesn't immediately applaud. No, it tests you. It sends storms to see if your roots are deep. It throws shadows to see if your light is real, because the decision is only the ignition. What comes next is the forging. Greatness is never handed over. It's earned through fire. Thomas Edison failed over 10,000 times in pursuit of the electric light. People mocked him, experts ridiculed him, but Edison didn't see failure, he saw refinement. He said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10 zeros, zero ways that won't work." That's not just resilience, that's identity. He decided that he was an inventor, and so failure could not erase that truth. He became what he believed, and so must you, because once you decide, the path narrows. You stop dabbling, you stop drifting, you eliminate what no longer aligns. You stop entertaining distractions disguised as opportunities. You walk with eyes fixed on the horizon and feet planted in purpose. But hear this clearly, deciding who you will become means sacrifice. It means losing the parts of yourself addicted to comfort. It means standing alone sometimes. It means being misunderstood by the many so you can be remembered by the few who matter. It is the opposite of easy, and yet it is the only way to live fully. Clarity of identity is the beginning, but discipline is the bridge that carries it into reality. Without it, your decision is just a wish. Andrew Carnegie didn't build an empire because he got lucky. He lived with obsessive intent. He rose before dawn. He read, studied, learned. He surrounded himself with other minds of fire. Discipline was his ritual and purpose his religion. Discipline is the decision you make after the excitement is gone. It's the action you take when nobody's watching, when no one's clapping, when quitting whispers its sweet lies. And it is here in this crucible that transformation begins. Let the world sleep, let others wait for the right time. You move now, you act while they delay, because you are no longer becoming. You already decided who you are. When Lincoln was handed a broken nation and told it would collapse under his feet, he did not flinch. He wasn't perfect, he wasn't polished, but he stood tall because the man he had become was built for the storm. He was forged in loss, in failure, in rejection, but he had long since decided that the mission was greater than the man. And when your purpose becomes greater than your ego, your limits dissolve. So get clear, crystal clear on what drives you. Not what you want, but what you are here for, because wants fade, desires shift. But a mission burns, a mission wakes you up at 4 a.m. with fire in your chest. A mission silences the doubt. A mission keeps you walking when your legs want to collapse. This world does not need more followers. It needs leaders, men and women, who have decided who they will become and refuse to bow to anything less. Let your life become proof of what happens when a human being refuses to compromise on their identity. Let your walk become a sermon, your work a testimony. Let your results speak so loudly that your name is remembered long after you are gone. You don't need to convince the world. You only need to convince yourself. And once you do, the world will follow. You do not rise by wishing. You rise by building, and brick by brick, you either construct a palace of purpose or a prison of procrastination. Too many wait for motivation. They treat action like a response to inspiration. But the ones who become legends, they act their way into motivation. They move, then they feel. They don't chase a mood, they create momentum. Henry Ford wasn't the smartest man in every room, but he had the boldness to begin. He wasn't concerned with being perfect, he was obsessed with being relentless. And because of that obsession, he didn't just build cars, he built an entire way of thinking, a philosophy of motion, a standard that said, if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So the question is no longer, what if I fail? The real question is, what if you never become who you were meant to be? That should haunt you more than failure ever could. Failure is a bruise. Regret is a wound that never heals. But regret does not live in the hearts of those who decide, because once you decide, your past no longer owns you. It becomes your fuel. Every betrayal, every loss, every misstep, all of it becomes part of your fire. You don't run from it. You refine it. You mine it for the gold of grit and the jewels of perspective. And that's what separates the average from the architects of destiny, not the absence of pain, but the alchemizing of it. You must turn wounds into wisdom, doubt into direction, pain into power, and that's not poetry, it's practice. Wake up each day with your decision etched into your bones. Speak it in silence, carry it in your posture. Let it reflect in your discipline, and when weakness whispers, remember what you said. Remember who you swore you'd become, because no one gets to escape the mirror, and the mirror doesn't lie when the applause fades. When the lights go off, when it's just you, your soul, and your choices, that's when you see what's real. And real power is silent. It's not loud. It doesn't beg to be seen. It simply is. It radiates from those who have done the internal work. Those who have walked through fire and still choose to rise. Those who have nothing to prove because they already are. That's who you must become. Not someone who looks successful, someone who is undeniable. This journey, this becoming, is not a sprint. It's a marathon through valleys of doubt and peaks of revelation. It demands patience, but not passivity. It demands persistence, but not stubbornness to the point of blindness. You must cultivate adaptability. The river doesn't resist the rocks in its path. It flows around them, carving new routes without losing purpose. Steve Jobs once said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward." But you don't wait to connect those dots. You trust the process, the unfolding of your life's blueprint, and you keep moving forward with faith, even in uncertainty. Because clarity is not always a sudden light bulb, often it's a slow sunrise. It's the courage to take the next step even when you don't see the whole staircase. It's the grit to keep building your character in the dark, long before anyone sees the light you're creating. You've decided who you will become, but the world will try to rewrite your story. It will doubt you, dismiss you, and attempt to chain you to the life you're leaving behind. Remember Henry Ford's words, "Whether you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right." Your mind is the battlefield. Your thoughts are the generals, and your beliefs are the army. You must train them, sharpen them, and align them with the vision you carry. Napoleon Hill said, "What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But belief without action is empty. The mind is fertile soil, but only work can plant the seeds and nurture them into towering oaks. And so, discipline becomes your daily act of war against the inner voices that whisper enough. Enough excuses. Enough fear. Enough waiting. Discipline means doing what must be done even when you don't want to. It's waking up early to study, to train, to create. It's saying no to comfort and yes to challenge. It's embracing sacrifice as the currency of success. And when you do this, when you embody discipline, you become unstoppable. You become a force of nature, a human hurricane of purpose, belief, and unshakable will. This is the destiny of those who decide, not just to dream, but to become. You see, the greatest illusion most people live under is this, that they have time, they drift, waiting for some perfect moment for confidence, for clarity, for someone to tell them it's their turn. But that moment never comes, and while they wait, life moves, doors close, potential dies quietly in the corners of comfort. But you decided differently. You stopped waiting and started becoming. You stepped away from the crowd and dared to claim authorship over your life. You are not a statistic. You are not a follower. You are not average because you chose not to be, and when you made that decision, the clock started ticking. There is no more someday. There is only now. The man or woman you're becoming doesn't exist in theory. They exist in the daily execution of who you are when it's hard, when it's boring, when no one is watching. Because character isn't built under the spotlight, it's carved in the shadows. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination, fired, bankrupt, rejected over 300 times trying to get funding for Disneyland. But what they didn't understand was that Walt had already decided. He saw castles where others saw swamps. He saw dreams where others saw debt. And because he refused to let the world define him, he created a world that redefined the impossible. That is what decision looks like when it's backed by vision. But vision without work is hallucination. You can't visualize yourself to greatness if you don't build every day with blood and will and relentless execution. You can't journal your way into transformation unless that journal becomes a map and you walk it. The mountain doesn't care about your affirmations. It responds to your ascent. You must become the type of person who cannot be denied. Who gets up when it hurts, who shows up when it's hard, who keeps walking when the road disappears. Because every time you show up in alignment with your decision, even when you feel empty, you strengthen the foundation of who you are. Belief doesn't mean the absence of doubt. It means dominating it, and every time you act in the face of fear, you cast a vote for the future you, every rep, every rejection, every risk. Every late night and early morning, each is a brick in the cathedral of your identity. This is how legacies are built, not through flashes of brilliance, but through quiet, consistent defiance of mediocrity. You don't need to scream your goals to the world, just become them. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You don't even need understanding. You need certainty, and that certainty is born the moment you stop negotiating with your lower self. Every day is a test. Will you act like the person you were or the person you decided to become? There is no room for both.